And last but not least, Morgan Jenness. Morgan is an anomaly among agents. Morgan is an agent who reads and who adores the people who write new work.
There are others.
There are a few, maybe. This may be traced in part to Morgan's background. She worked for years at both New York Shakespeare Festival Public Theater in the literary department. She also held the position Linda now holds at New York Theater Workshop as Associate Artistic Director. Morgan is often called upon to offer guidance and inspiration on various aspects of new play development from coast to coast. She was mentored as an agent by the legendary Helen Merrill, and she too is an Obie winner, having been presented with a special citation for longtime support of playwrights in 2003. So we have a wonderful panel here, and I'm really delighted that each one of you took the time to join us. So thank you. So let's start with Morgan. Morgan, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how the synopsis functions in your life as an agent. I mean,
I mean, I think it's important to define synopsis, because some people, like the sort of standard things of synopsis is a page long, a half a page long. It kind of talks about the plot. I kind of go with, there's a wonderful quote by E.M. Forster, which distinguishes between plot, or just what happens, and what's really going on, or story. And he says a plot is the queen died and the king died. And the story is the queen died and the king died of grief, which I think is a wonderful quote. And I kind of use the succinctness and the beauty of that quotation in terms of what I recommend, what we actually send out, because we do a little thing at the agency and we're still kind of refining a lot of these. Some of them you'll see are too long. I find that it's really effective if there are about 4 lines which you describe the kind of DNA, the spine, the heart of your play. It's not defining the plot, it's defining what it really is. In Sanskrit theater, there's a wonderful concept in structure called the germ and the drop. And this is basically the beginning of the play. It's the idea that informs the play, and then it's what starts the story. And also sometimes getting up to where the reversal is, so that you set up an idea of the central character or characters or what you're following being between 2 contradictory forces. And this goes all the way back to the Greek concept of sparagmos, which used to be taken about literal tearing apart in Dionysian rituals, which then got translated in modern terms and also in Greek terms to the tearing apart that happens within a character, or within a community, or within a family, which is a lot of what we watch in drama. And it's like what the tearing, when you are in between contradictory forces, contradictory feelings, contradictory impulses, or influences, you either, how do you deal with that contradiction? It tears you apart, or hopefully you become large enough to encompass.
So it sounds like you're talking about movement.
I'm talking about the basic movement, yeah, right. Like what, so for me, it's not so much of a synopsis. I guess it's a blurb, but it's a blurb which encapsulates the germ and the drop, and they're very hard to write. They're also incredibly useful to write. First of all, because they help the writer define what the spine of their play is. It's not like reductive, like I would say, how can I reduce my play to 4 lines? Well, it's not, it's the spine, it's the heart, it's it is the DNA. It's like finding the, is there a line in your script that holds the DNA of the play as well? Sometimes you can include that. And what it is that very quickly you kind of go, this is what the play really is about, this is the conflict that we're looking at, this is the theme, the germ and the drop. And it's a teaser. It doesn't give away, you know, the plot at all, really. It's a teaser that makes someone want to write a play. And you see it, you know, in catalogs of scripts. I have issues sometimes in the catalogs of scripts. I think they give too much away, because they really do give the plot away. And I have an example of that, which I can share later. But, so I think the synopsis is incredibly valuable as an exercise to try to write that. And it's hard. Like, we're still working on some of these. And like you were saying, you rewrite it, sometimes you go the wrong direction, sometimes you find the core of it. And I think it also, and what I'll talk about later, is also very useful because one of the issues that playwrights have is how their plays are marketed by the theaters that do them. If you really have a clear idea and have a synopsis, you can have a little bit more control over how the play is talked about. Sometimes the play is talked about in a way that doesn't prepare the audience for it, sets up an entirely wrong expectation for the play. It also, quite frankly, shows up in reviews. So that critics will actually pull that language that's been in the marketing, and if it's been somewhat defined, at least a little bit at the center of its gravity, by the playwright really understanding their intentions, then I think you're off to a better start.
This reminds me of something that Jeni and I had talked about when we talked on the phone before this panel. Jeni, you were talking about the danger in having a synopsis that misleads, that kind of guides the reader in a different direction, sets up expectations to be dashed by the script. Can you talk a little bit about that, and also how you work with your writers at Seven Devils?
Well, you know, one of the things that mostly what I do with synopses is I'm working with the playwrights who come out to the conference to try and find actually what, you know, I've always sort of called a blurb, but a synopsis, sort of the shortest possible way to convey. And yeah, I mean,
a little closer to the mic.
Sorry, and I think that when a synopsis or a blurb is misleading, especially when that is going out to people who are about to see the play or about to read the play, yeah, those false expectations can sort of, if somebody gets really excited about the synopsis, you don't want to lose them in the actual experience of the play. So I think it's important, just like a headshot has to look really like an actor, you know, the synopsis has to really be a portrayal of the play as much as possible. And I do think that that's a really difficult balance that can't be just about the plot or the action of the play, because so much of that is also in things like the tone and the spirit, and that germ is a great word, of what happens in the play. So that's usually what I'm doing. Actually, when I was trying to condense my idea of what I thought I was trying to do with the synopsis, it was really what I came up with was trying to convey the spirit and the tone of a play through action in as short as, you know, period as possible. And actually the quote that I always use is, I don't know if it's really Oscar Wilde, everything gets attributed to Oscar Wilde, but it's a quote about, you know, I would have sent you a shorter note, but I didn't have the time. I think, yeah. Who was that? There we go. But yeah, I mean, I think it's so true in a synopsis. It takes a lot of time, and for me, what I end up doing with the playwrights is a lot of back and forth. I do think it's the more it's a process with somebody else that can help you check in and make sure that you've got that spine. I think a lot of times it helps you find where your spine is off, or where you're distracted, or where you have too many ideas going and you're not sure which one is the one that you're focusing on. I think it can be a really productive tool as part of development. We actually view it as part of the development process for the play development.
And yet, when people submit to Seven Devils, they don't submit synopses at all, is that correct?
Well, we ask them not to, but that's one of my little pet peeves, is that I think if someone does not ask you for a synopsis, I would not send them a synopsis, because there's a tendency to read a synopsis if it's in front of you, even if you didn't ask for it, and I think I'm not for sending it unless they're asked for, and definitely not putting it in the binding of your script, because I can't take it out.